Hello and welcome, I'm Jade of Jaded Reader, and today I'm doing a book review on The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. First, I will have a spoiler-free zone at the beginning of this where I will also go over what I believe would be a much-needed glossary before starting this book if you plan on reading it successfully or without frustration. And I, of course, will warn you the moment I start to spoil things or go further into the plot than one would want to go. So here is the book, The Merciful Crow. I have seen this all over BookTube. I have friends that absolutely adore it, and I have friends who absolutely hated it and were completely frustrated by it. So this anomaly is the story of Phi. Phi is a crow caste, and there is quite an intricate casting system in this book. So at the very top, you have your Phoenix. The Phoenix are the royals and have been the royals for as long as this world has existed. For clarity's sake, this world is called Sabor. This does not take place in an alternate of our world, in the past or the present. This is very much so a fictional fantasy world. So luckily, while there's not a glossary, which I think I would have found quite helpful, there is a legend at the beginning talking about the caste system. Not all Phoenix can breathe or create fire. Some are just impervious to fire, can't be hurt by fire, and the witches are going to be the ones who can actually harness and use fire. That is going to go throughout the caste system. So you have the splendid caste, which has peacocks, swans, and doves, and then the hunting caste, which has hawks, cranes, owls, and vultures, and the common caste, which has gulls, pigeons, and sparrows. The gulls, pigeons, and sparrows are going to be your commoners, your villagers, those less powerful castes that just don't get the same amount of attention because this world is very stratified. There's definitely a class system within this caste system. And then at the very bottom, without even getting its own separate grid, you have the crows. The crows, it says that the birthright is none. However, the crows' power is being able to harness all of this other caste system's power. They also are completely unharmed by the plague, and the plague runs rampant throughout Sabor. They not only have a birthright, they have possibly the strongest birthright out of this entire caste. Just like with the Phoenix that I explained earlier, not every single crow is able to harness the power. Some of them are just not able to get the plague, but the witches that become chiefs within the crow system are able to harness teeth or bones and use the magic in whoever's bones they are to harness their powers. So if a crow gets a phoenix tooth, then they're going to be able to harness and use the power of fire if they are a crow witch. That goes with every single caste power. While it says the birthright below, I didn't find that it explained it very well, and it sometimes became overwhelming or confusing to me. So I've already explained the Phoenix caste, so moving down, if you are a witch in the peacock caste, then you will be able to disguise yourself for a certain amount of time. If a crow has that, the ability lasts for about 2 days, and you can use the teeth to change your appearance. Next up is the Swan caste. The Swan caste birthright is desire, and this one I definitely had some struggles with. It's not that they become more desirable, but they are able to control you based off of your desires. Now, I know this is going to sound absolutely silly, but the Dove caste, which is artistry, didn't really come up in this book at all. Maybe it'll happen in the second one. I'm guessing they're really good at making things, so I'm going to move on to the Hawk caste. The Hawk caste is actually probably one of the most important ones to pay attention to in the book, as it's not clear what the powers are until they're being used, and it's being used in adrenaline-filled moments where you're trying to understand what's happening. Hawk is going to be able to both heal and, really overwhelmingly, they are also able to, if they're a witch, control bodies. If you are a Hawk caste, you may be able to stop people from moving mid-step, and you can also heal yourself. The Crane caste I found really fascinating, and I very much so liked how it was used. The Crane caste is truth. If you have a crane tooth, you are able to squeeze the truth out of somebody. It's a steadfast truth serum, and you will get all the answers out of someone you need without having to interrogate them past a question. The Owl caste is another one that was not heavily featured, but essentially these are going to be your scribes, the ones that hold memories, which is indeed their birthright. So they have a very large memory bank. They know many things, and they're your historians and your librarians. Then you have your Vulture caste. Those are your hunters, which is indeed their birthright, is hunting. If you have a Vulture witch, they're called skin witches, and if they touch you, they are able to track you far and wide. You will never be able to escape. Vultures without the witch ability are able to just sense other magics. Vultures are definitely one to look out for. The gulls didn't really come into play. Those are going to be your airbenders, your air nomads. They're able to control the winds, and it's quite the ability that I was surprised was not used more heavily throughout the book. Pigeon's birthright is luck, and these are pretty straightforward. It's the roll of a dice, the little extra bit that gets you through the day. You might be able to get away with something you otherwise wouldn't. Then down at the bottom you have the sparrows. The sparrow teeth end up being incredibly useful as they are the power of invisibility. You aren't able to be seen or detected. I also found this an incredible talent that is somehow down at the bottom. While the stratification of the birds themselves makes sense, I was quite surprised that such prominent powers were such low caste systems. I feel like if I was invisible or can control the wind, I could get away with quite a lot. Now, with that caste system in mind, we're going to enter Sabor and Phi's story. Phi is our main character. She is a crow caste and she is training to be her next chief in her tribe. The crow tribes are incredibly unique and complex as far as their culture building goes. Because Phi's ability, along with her other crows, are able to escape the plague, the crows are tasked with the mercy killings of people with the plague. When anyone ever catches the plague, a crow comes in and gives them a mercy killing. While this book didn't have a lot of bloodshed in it, I would say a trigger warning is definitely going to be cutting throats and cutting for ritualistic purposes. Phi and her clan are then called upon a plague beacon in order to summon the crows to the royal palace, as someone in the royal family has caught the plague. The story takes off the moment we find out that the person that is supposed to have the plague not only doesn't have the plague, but they are alive and well and on the run. Due to Phi's quick thinking, a pact is made in order for the crows to get better treatment and for her people to be able to rise in the caste system to a more deserving rank, as well as just not having to fear for their lives. The rest of the story pretty much centers around the quest of trying to get the crown prince of Sabor to his allies in order to stop the current reigning queen from destroying the kingdom further and from trying to kill the heir. There's a lot of plot twists and turns, a lot of very exciting adrenaline-filled moments, and if you are ready for a highly detailed story with intricate world building, then The Merciful Crow is for you. Phi herself is a really cool main character, one of my favorites as far as how she was written. She's very honest and straightforward, she's crass, she's bold, but she's not foolhardy. She is fighting and believing in her people. She was very reminiscent for me of Ygritte from Game of Thrones in how she talks and how she presents herself. I absolutely loved just how honest her perspective was throughout the entire book. I felt like I was truly getting to know her, and I felt like I could anticipate what she was going to do next based off of her personality because it was so consistent. Now, on to terms to know. I hate to be the one to give you vocabulary words, but this book has a lot of them. And I will say all of these words can be found in some form of dictionary or online search. They are not made up words. They are archaic words, words used less often maybe in the United States or the Americas, and have more of a Scottish heritage. So keep that in mind, that these words are not made up words, although they are quite literally archaic. So one of the first words you're going to come across is betwixt. And betwixt means between. It is an archaic word, and while I don't know it being used anymore today, it was quite fun to read and say, and it really does set an atmosphere and tone. The one that I didn't quite get right away and I did struggle with that came up quite constantly was ken and kend. These words are going to mean to understand or be understood, to have a grasp of a meaning. I ironically did not ken the meaning quite as quickly as I would have liked, and I thought it meant head. It caused some confusion at the beginning. Now, Skin Witch is one I brought up earlier, but I do want to highlight it. Skin Witch is going to be a vulture caste who is able to track you based on touching your skin. You also have other types of witches who are usually just referenced as witches, and those are going to be ones in the caste that can use the extra ability of harnessing that power. Mummed, mummery, and mumming is going to be another archaic word which means play acting, pretending, or some sort of tomfoolery, meaning that you are not doing what you are supposed to do. You are pretending to do something and you are doing it in a silly or odd way. Beacons or beacon signals are going to be the things that signal to the crows that they need to come and give a merciful killing to a person with the plague, which brings me to my next term, which is sinners. Sinners are going to be members of the community that have the plague that are dying. And what do you do with those sinners? You scum them, or they've been scummed. Another term for it is a scummer, and those are going to be killers. So you have to be killed, killing, and the killer. Then you have oleanders. Oleanders are going to be different parts of caste systems that absolutely hate the crows. They are a hate-filled group that goes around and kills crows. There's no protection from the oleanders in place. The covenant is going to be the crows' higher being or ethereal sense of where they belong in the world, as well well as possibly a canon truth, the Covenant is referred to as a higher being that deems whether or not people are worthy of living or dying in a godlike way. The bone dance. Much like the money dance is a debt collecting dance, once you have created a bone dance, you are saying that the people owing you money need to cough it up. Bone thief is going to be a slur used against crows, as they do need to use bones in order to use magic, and they use magic from other caste systems, so bone thief is a slur that is used for crows. While there is a strong magic system in this book, not a lot of spells are used. However, there is a term that is used throughout the book, and it's harmony. Harmony is when you are using it as a spell to connect two teeth together to either amalgamate the powers or to make them stronger. At many points in the book, the word harmony is used, and that is Fi trying to connect the teeth to create a stronger power or use for them. Finally, I'm going to use one vocabulary word in the spoiler zone. So with that, I hope that that helps you achieve what you would need to start the Merciful Crow, and I'm going to start talking about further things that happened in the book that I either liked or didn't care for. It'll overall be a discussion, so this would be your time to click out if you want no spoilers whatsoever. I hope I've given you some tools before you've started the book, and I really hope you enjoy and are not overwhelmed by the Merciful Crow, because once you know what's going on, it's quite an enjoyable ride. And if you are signing off now, I hope you enjoy the sun or more stars wherever you are, and until next time, bye! For those who are still with me, hi, this is the spoiler section. I have one more vocabulary word, and that is going to be skingasts. It's a horrible word. It doesn't have much explanation, and I think when it's being explained, there's a really fast-paced moment happening, and I wasn't able to grasp it quite as well as I would have liked. That is going to be zombies. So they are like this zombie flesh-eating thing that happens with the oleanders, where you have people who died earlier in the books come back, and you see them as like zombies, and they're called skingasts, and I did not know what was going on. It took me quite a few moments to be like, wait, okay, we have zombies. Zombies are happening. All right, so skingasts, zombies. Apart from that, I have thoughts. Lots and lots of thoughts. Like I said, Fi is an amazing main character. I really enjoyed her. I also found that the other two characters, Jasamir and Tavin, were very interesting. Jasamir is openly gay, and I really liked that. I liked that it was just open and just natural, and it wasn't scandalous in any way. While I think both types of stories are important, being able to normalize it within a book I also think is super important, so I enjoyed that aspect of getting to know more about the characters. Now, while I really enjoyed the writing in this book, I have to say Margaret Owen knows how to use words. I think she maybe used too many of them. I know that's hard to say as it is a book filled with words, but a lot of the time I just felt like the words were drowning out the plot and the story. I was paying more attention on every movement and piece that they had in place, and not enough time actually knowing what was going on. This created action scenes that ended up being kind of a mess. They felt like they were written with a lot of adrenaline just pushed into them, and I wasn't always able to keep up. It felt like a blur, and by the time I was done, I was just trying to get my bearings and say, okay, where are we now then? For me, that's really hard, as I was really enjoying the characters and I'm enjoying the descriptions, but too much of a good thing makes for an oversaturated story. And while I loved the Crow's culture and the different unique dynamics of each caste system, I found that it was info heavy at the end. So by the time they actually started explaining deeper meanings, I felt pretty confident in what I was doing. So finding out more about the Crows and how they get their names, it just felt like too little too late. Now, as far as the plot goes, when you pull away all of the pretty words and very long detailed pauses, you don't have an incredibly strong plot. There's a lot of moments where they are stopped and in standstill, and you're getting a lot of really great dialogue and conversation. That is something that Margaret Owen has down pat, is her discussions and conversations feel so natural that I feel like I'm just eavesdropping on people speaking, and I really do like that aspect. Again, was too saturated. There's a final scene that was super badass, super cool, but the fight or battle itself was a little overwhelming, and there was a lot of times where these characters failed, and so I was expecting a really big payoff when they won, and it was okay. If I had less of them failing, then I would have felt more okay with how they won. Super cool plot twists are throughout this book. I very much so by the end was like, ah, yes, that makes sense. But I'm also unsure if I would have figured out this plot twist if I wasn't so distracted by all the vocabulary words and world building that I brought up in the first half of this video. So with that being said, The Merciful Crow, I ended up giving a 3.5 or 4 out of 5 stars. After saying everything, I feel like it's a 3.5, but I really, really liked it. Keep that in mind that while this is a 3.5 star, it wasn't a blah book for me. It was very thought compelling, and I felt like I was doing work in reading it, which as long as I'm not in school is fine. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of The Merciful Crow. This is actually my first single review where I try and explain a book, so I hope it works for what I'm trying to get it to do, and I hope it worked for you. Thank you for sticking through. If you've read it before or you didn't care about spoilers, I really appreciate it. I know my retention score is going to wither and die because people are only watching half of this video, but whether you enjoy The Merciful Crow or not, I hope you're enjoying the sun or more stars wherever you are, and until next time, bye!